Many ethnic communities in colonial Kenya were led by a local council of elders who made decisions regarding their people. However, during the colonial era, the position of a paramount chief was created by the British administration in order to effectively govern the colonies between the 19th and 20th centuries. This is the legacy of Paramount Chief Olonana Ole Mbatian, popularly known as Lenana, who was one of the most outstanding Maasai and Kenyan leaders, African chief, and Laibon. Paramount Chief Lenana was a prominent Maasai leader in Kenya during the late 19th and 20th centuries. Chief Lenana was a Laibon or Oloiboni, a Maasai term which means medicine man. Chief Lenana was more than a Laibon. He was a spiritual and political leader among the Maasai, and his name Olonana, meaning the wise one, was a befitting name to Lenana's career as a leader. Lenana was born in 1870 at Ngoshua near Monduli at the foothills of Mount Kilimanjaro. He was the son of the most powerful Maasai Laibon known as Mbatian. Although Lenana was born into a polygamous household with many children, he was the only son of his mother. Now, Lenana's father Mbatian was a Maasai Laibon, known for his accurate prophecies which brought on victories to the Maasai warriors and overall to the Maasai people. Another known fact about Mbatian was that he had 100 wives. Mbatian is recorded as the most powerful Laibon in Maasai history. A Laibon was an individual who held the highest place in the social hierarchy of the Maasai. A Laibon's position was not just political, but a position that wielded supreme influence and power through his role as a chief medicine man, a diviner, and a prophet of the people. Lenana was circumcised in 1882 at the age of 19 years and was later initiated into the Il-Talala age group. Thereafter, Lenana was apprenticed as a prophet like the other sons of his father who had prophetic powers that were hereditary. Lenana was, however, disadvantaged as Mbatian preferred to teach his favorite son Senteu how to discharge the duties of a Laibon, openly preparing Senteu to be his successor. Mbatian even allowed Senteu to deal with his own clients in order to get practical knowledge. As for Lenana, he perfected his Laibon skills by watching his father at work whenever he had an opportunity, thereby gradually developing his own client base. Towards the end of the 1880s, the prophet Mbatian had become blind, sickly, and senile. Consequently, his predicament generated anxiety as he had not named his successor. As a result, his people feared that there would be a power vacuum when he eventually passed on. In the presence of the Maasai elders, Senteu was chosen to receive from his father Mbatian the symbols of leadership, including the insignia. According to historians, the following were the last wishes of Mbatian, the medicine man, to the Maasai elders. Do not move from your country, for I am about to pass on. But when I do pass on, I will send you cattle from heaven. However, if you move, you will die of smallpox and your cattle will perish. You will have to fight with a powerful enemy, but you will be overpowered. I wish my successor to be the son to whom I give the medicine man's insignia. Obey him. After the elders had left Mbatian's presence, the medicine man then called his eldest son Senteu and said this to him: Come tomorrow morning, for I wish to give you the medicine man's insignia. Rumor had it that while Mbatian was conversing with his eldest son Senteu, Lenana was hiding in a cowshed, listening to the conversation between Senteu and Mbatian. It was at this moment in time when Lenana decided in his heart and mind that he would be his father's successor instead of his brother Senteu. So this is how Lenana was able to swindle his brother out of his rightful place, steal his inheritance, and swap destiny with him. On the said morning, Lenana arose early and went to his father's hut. Lenana disguised himself as his brother Senteu in order to collect his blessings and thereby swap his entire destiny with him. On his arrival to his father's hut, Lenana addressed his father saying, "Father, I have come." Now Mbatian was very old in age and had only one eye. He therefore did not clearly see which of his sons was before him, and hence gave Lenana the insignia of the medicine man, at the same time pouring blessings on his son, saying, "You shall be great among your brothers and among your people." Thereafter, Lenana took the medicine man's insignia and went away. However, when Senteu appeared before his father that same morning, his father was shell-shocked to find out that he had passed on his mantle of leadership down to the wrong son. When Senteu heard this, that his brother had swindled him out of his own blessing, he became very angry and was driven with vengeance from then on. Senteu even waged war with his brother Lenana and was quoted by many people saying that, "I will not be subject to my brother. I will fight with him until I end him." Senteu was known to move as a righteous soul, always doing things by the book. But Lenana was the opposite of his brother, as cunning as a fox and always manipulating people, places, and things for his own benefit. And doesn't this story of Lenana and Senteu ring a bell? This story sounds more like that of Jacob and Esau in the Bible, where Jacob stole his brother's inheritance for a morsel of beans. This is a tale as old as time, a tale of betrayal where the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy families by sowing discord among brothers and pitting them against each other to destroy them. Nonetheless, Lenana was unapologetic for swindling his brother out of his inheritance. He never did care about loyalty or brotherhood. All he ever cared about was being a powerful Laibon, just like his father. On the days leading to Mbatian's death, Senteu and Lenana were engaged in a subtle power struggle as each tried to strategically place himself to inherit the father's powers when he died. Although Senteu was the favorite son of his father Mbatian, Lenana outwitted him to secure the old man's blessings at his deathbed. By the time Senteu, the preferred heir, discovered that he had been outfoxed, it was too late, for his father had told him that once the insignia was passed down, the ritual could not be reversed. Therefore, Lenana was the legitimate Laibon. Mbatian's death in 1890 coincided with the arrival of the white man in what was the British East Africa Protectorate, now known as the Republic of Kenya. Mbatian's death opened up a new phase of conflict between his two sons, which would pit them and their followers against each other. Mbatian, the powerful Laibon, died and was buried near Oldonyo Orok, also known as Namanga Hills, situated in the Kenya-Tanzania border. After the death of Mbatian, the MAASAI community was divided as to who was the rightful heir of the Laibon insignia. Some of the people claimed that Senteu was the rightful heir of the insignia as per his father's wishes, while others sided with Lenana, for he had the insignia in his possession, and therefore many in the community assumed that he was chosen to be the next Laibon. This rivalry between Senteu and Lenana and the resultant war were further compounded by drought and other natural calamities, which the white colonialists exploited in order to subdue the MAASAI. Barely 4 years into his reign, Lenana suffered a major blow in 1894 when Senteu, who had migrated to Loita Hills, attacked the Ilmatapato and other clans living around Nairobi and took away large numbers of cattle. Unfortunately for Lenana, his people were also attacked by the Kikuyu community, who took advantage of their impoverished state because they were ravaged by war and disease. It's against this background that Lenana continuously pleaded for support from Francis Hall, an agent of the Imperial British East Africa Company, who had established a fort at Kabete. At this moment in time, Francis Hall was busy looking for allies to help him vanquish the Kikuyu community together with other neighboring communities who stood in the way of the Imperial British East Africa's territorial expansion. This marked the coming together of Lenana and Francis Hall to confront a common enemy and establish ties that blossomed with trade, which ultimately saw Lenana being enthroned as a paramount chief by the British colonial government in December of 1898. In the same year of 1898, Senteu's warriors crossed from Tanganyika and attacked Loita, causing the British Foreign Office in London to issue an order for the attacks to be stopped. It's under these circumstances that Lenana was elevated to the position of a paramount chief and by the colonial government in order to closely supervise and restrain Lenana from causing a diplomatic row by pursuing his brother into Tanganyika. Sidney Langford Hind, a British aide, was appointed as a resident to the MAASAI chief Lenana and as a political agent for the MAASAI agency in order to exercise friendly supervision. In the ensuing years, the British would exploit their control of the Maasai community through Chief Lenana in order to extract concessions that deprived the Maasai people much of their land through a series of bogus agreements, even as they played the two brothers Lenana and Senteu against each other. With Lenana's help, his brother Senteu was driven out of Tanganyika by a string of disasters in 1902 into the hands of the colonial authorities, which began the final phase of the takeover of the Maasai land together with the impending karma. And once the British took over Senteu and his share of ancestral land, Lenana would outlive his usefulness as a chief and ally of the British colonial government. The truth is that the British colonial government had taken advantage of the sibling rivalry to steal land from the Maasai people. Yet Paramount Chief Lenana had unknowingly sparked a chain reaction by triggering a series of unfortunate events that led to the demise of his brother Senteu, his people the Maasai, and eventually his own self. Lenana seriously coveted the position of a Laibon, so much so that he swindled his own brother out of his own inheritance because he craved for the power of the Laibon held within the Maasai community. Yet his own intuition failed him, that he was not able to perceive how the consequences of his betrayal would attract negative forces and ultimately cause destruction of his own people. Nonetheless, karma was working slowly but surely to give him the same dose he gave to his own brother. As he stole from his brother's rightful place as a Laibon and swapped destiny with him, so did the British steal from him his land and threw his people out of their ancestral land. After only 13 years of being a paramount chief, death came knocking at his door. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, hand for hand and foot for foot. That was the judgment call imposed on Lenana by the universe. The British colonial government had employed all tricks in the book to control Lenana's influence. Yet the British did nothing to help Lenana medically when he suffered from a communicable disease known as dysentery, which drained the life out of him. Lenana was a man who for years had been highly regarded as the government's most trusted ally, a man who provided reinforcements when the colonial government needed to subdue rebellious communities. The British colonial government even paid him a salary and treated his thumbprint signature as a priceless asset. But as he lay dying, the government simply monitored his worsening condition from afar, never providing transport to a health facility or medication. To them, the paramount chief Lenana, son of Mbatian, did not qualify for the medical scheme. Hence, no vehicle could be availed to fetch him from his home, a mere 16 kilometers from Kiserian to Nairobi. At this point, one would ask a very crucial question. Chief Lenana was a Laibon, a medicine man, and if so, why was he not able to conjure up a herbal potion or a traditional cure that would rid him of any communicable disease? Better yet, his brother Senteu would have lent him a helping hand if they were on good terms and shared a brotherly bond. As a matter of fact, Senteu, with his prophetic eye, would have perceived the plans of the colonial government to steal from the ancestral land, yet he could not be still enough to see beyond his anger or thirst for vengeance. Mbatian's prophecy came to pass. He had prophesied that his people, the Maasai, would contend with a powerful enemy and that enemy would overpower them. He had also prophesied to them that if they moved from their land, they would not survive. And it's because of these prophecies that he decided to choose Senteu to be his successor, for he foresaw that Senteu would be capable of challenging the foreigners and thereby protecting the Maasai community. I could be wrong to conclude my premise in this manner. However, between Mbatian's prophecies and Lenana's impulsive actions, the enemy had not only won, but had also managed to destroy the lives of the sons of Mbatian. Inevitably, when Lenana finally succumbed to the disease known as dysentery on the 17th of March 1911, senior government officials rushed to view his body, including the then governor of the East African Protectorate known as Governor Gerard Passy. The colonial government gave a glowing tribute to the fallen chief, a man who had prematurely aged due to hard living. At 40 years, Lenana looked weak and emaciated, and by the age of 41 years, Lenana lost his life to dysentery. The worst thing about this story is that the British colonial government beseeched the grieving Maasai community to respect the Laibon's last death wish. According to the British colonial government officials, Chief Lenana's last wish was that the Maasai community living in Laikipia be moved away from Laikipia so as to pave way for the establishment of the White Highlands exclusively occupied by the white settlers. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, best believe that this happened in 1911 after the death of Chief Lenana. The Maasai community was moved from Laikipia as a result of bogus treaties or agreements signed in 1904 and 1911 respectively between the Maasai leaders and the British administrators. In addition to the Laikipia's plateau, Chief Lenana also ceded the Maasai lands in the Central Rift Valley to the British. This cession occurred through two agreements, namely the 1904 agreement, which saw the establishment of the Northern and Southern Reserves, and a subsequent agreement in 1911 that forced the Maasai community to consolidate into the Southern Reserve, effectively giving up their lands in Laikipia. Both these agreements were bogus because Lenana was illiterate and thus he did not know what he was signing. I'm sure that the colonial government never bothered to explain to Chief Lenana that he was signing away his rights to his ancestral lands. Yet why would they, when in fact they were stealing from him, knowing that he was ignorant of what they were planning behind his back? But ignorance is no defense, and hence could not undo what was already done. The displacement of the Maasai community was part of a strategy to control the Maasai people, facilitate white settlement, and exploit the land for agriculture and other purposes. As a result, the Maasai were forced to adapt new environments as well as compete for resources within designated reserves. This displacement has had a lasting consequence for the Maasai community with the ongoing struggles for land rights and compensation. And while white settlers left after Kenya's independence, the land did not automatically revert back to the Maasai, and much of it was redistributed to other Kenyans or remained in the hands of the white settler families. Currently, massive ranches and wildlife conservancies, largely owned by descendants of the white settlers or investors, cover a significant portion of Laikipia. To conclude, Olonana Ole Mbatian was a prominent Maasai leader and a Laibon who lived during a crucial period in Kenya's history, navigating the late 19th and 20th centuries. His achievements include influencing Maasai leadership during a time of internal conflict and British colonial expansion, becoming a paramount chief appointed to manage relations with the British, and having a peak of Mount Kenya named in his honor. As a matter of fact, several places in Kenya are named after Chief Lenana. Point Lenana is the third highest peak in Mount Kenya, named after the Maasai leader. Lenana School, the prestigious boys' school in Nairobi, was renamed from Duke of York School to Lenana School after the chief. The Oreteti AIC Church in Kajiado County is named after the Oreteti fig tree planted near Lenana's burial site. The Lenana wing of the Three Steers Hotel in Meru is also named after the chief. And finally, the Shedrick Wildlife Trust named a young elephant Lenana after the Maasai chief. Lenana rose to prominence during a period of Maasai nation building, competition for power, and increasing European influence. He was appointed paramount chief by the British to oversee Maasai, particularly in the context of controlling his brother Senteu, who was causing diplomatic issues. Lenana's leadership was intertwined with the expansion of British colonial rule. He was utilized by the British to secure land concessions from the Maasai through a series of agreements, though these agreements were often detrimental to the Maasai. While working with the British, Lenana also sought to maintain some aspects of Maasai culture and traditions. He became a symbol of Maasai identity and heritage through his role was complex and controversial due to his relationship with the colonial administration. Lenana's legacy is multifaceted. While his collaboration with the British led to the loss of Maasai land, he is also remembered as a Maasai leader who navigated a challenging period in Kenyan history.